Well, today there was a massive balance patch in Helldivers 2 and Arrowhead Studios, where they have come out to explain some of the buffs and the nerfs and what it means for all of us Helldivers as we fight the war against the bugs and the automatons. Well, today I'm going to jump into an article from Patrik Lasota. He's going to go into detail as to why Arrowhead Studios have buffed and nerfed various weapons. So this one was an absolutely huge balance patch. There's loads of detail to get into, so let's get to it. Well, the recent patch is now available on PC and also PS5. That was updated later on in the day, so it should be available out there for you today to play. Quite a lot of the most popular weapons and builds have been tweaked, and Patrik Lasota, the head of product testing at Arrowhead Studios, came out today to talk about what it means in the context of Helldivers 2, and also how they are listening to feedback and balancing the game. Well, first of all, Patrik starts with primary weapons. So he says, first of all, I'd like to speak to the general power of primary weapons. Many have commented that they aren't powerful enough, and they're unable to deal with all the enemies either by the amount of ammunition required or their raw DPS. Well, this is very much intentional. You need to rely on your stratagems and the stratagems of your team to deal with all of the enemies effectively. So either by Eagle airstrikes, orbitals, support weapons or turrets. Now, some of your loadout or your team should be tailoring their loadout to killing off the weaker stuff more efficiently. This doesn't mean your primary weapons shouldn't feel good to use, but please understand that it is primary only in the sense that it's something that you always spawn with. Well, next up we've got nerfs and fantasy, so they continue and say, I have since the game release seen many you say don't nerf, only buff, and other similar ideas. However, as a designer, I can tell you this isn't a great idea, but I understand where that sentiment comes from. All too often in the games industry, the core fantasy and what makes a weapon feel good and fun is ignored for the sake of balance. I believe players are scared of nerfs because it will ruin the fantasy of the weapon and ruin their fun. So it is extra important for us to tread carefully so we don't ruin the fantasy and the fun when we do nerfs. We hope you, our players, will tell us when we cross that line inadvertently. Well, let's take a look at the changes that we made for the balance patch. So first of all, the SG-225 Breaker. So the Breaker was quickly pinned down as the meta weapon, vastly overperforming other weapons and being the best choice for all Helldivers, at least if YouTube is to be believed. And I think I probably was part of that problem. Helldiver veterans will remember the Breaker from the first game and how powerful it was. It's something we've made an effort to mimic in this game as well. But when we looked at the Breaker and the data that we have on its usage, it painted a picture of a well-liked weapon that was great at killing chaff and generally had a few more kills than other weapons. It was, however, not necessarily better at making you succeed in a mission, and no real damage nerfs were warranted. The calculated total damage per magazine was quite high compared to other weapons, and something that could be reined in whilst also reinforcing the intended fantasy. The fantasy of the Breaker is a powerful automatic shotgun that bucks wildly as you hose down targets in front of you, and it should be deadly up close with a high DPS. And its major drawback should be the ammunition management and pacing your fire as to not overshoot a target. To that end, we've lowered the amount of shells in each magazine and increased the recoil. Next up, we got the SG-8 Punisher. So the Punisher is a powerful pump shotgun that should hit hard but be limited by its slow reload and fire rate. It rounds reload and it allows you to have it constantly topped up and make the ammunition efficiency fantastic. Unfortunately, the Punisher had a bug, and only half the ammo being picked up each time you picked up ammunition, making it supposedly great ammunition economy quite poor. Instead, it also had a weak impact when firing on enemies, often requiring multiple shots even at a shorter range. So to bring it more in line with its intended fantasy, we've increased the damage per shotgun pellet, the stagger amount and total amount of ammunition that you can carry. So we hope this will make it feel more punchy. Even if you don't kill a hunter with the first shot, you'll most likely stagger it, giving you time for a follow-up. Well, next up we got the SG-225 SP Breaker Spray and Pray. So the Breaker S&P was intended to be an even wilder, more point and destroy version of the regular Breaker, something where pacing yourself would be even harder. A shotgun that requires you to get in closer, but in comparison have a higher damage potential once up close. But as many players have commented, however, it was mostly good for tickling anything larger than a scavenger. So to bring it closer to the fantasy, we've increased the armor penetration, increased its fire rate from 300 RPM to 330 RPM and increased the amount of shotgun pellets in each shot from 12 to 16. To compensate for the additional firepower, we've reined in the magazine capacity from 32 to 26 as to make it not outshine the regular breaker too much in the ammunition economy department. Well, next up we've got a popular one. This one is the railgun, so another one of the current meta weapons enforced by its convenience and efficiency. The railgun is really intended to be a high-powered anti-tank sniper rifle, requiring both timing with the unsafe fire mode and accuracy where you hit the enemy. It was vastly overperforming in how safe it was to use and how convenient it was, not requiring a backpack or assistance to be effective and not requiring risk to take out even larger armoured targets. To that end, we have changed it so that the safe mode is capable of penetrating medium armour such as the automaton scout walkers, but not more heavily armoured enemies like the chargers and the bile titans. So for those targets you now must run it in unsafe mode and overcharge it. And in addition, we've reined in the railgun's ability to damage massive body parts, meaning to get any real efficiency out of it you must score hits on heads and also other weak points as well. We are aware it rose to prominence as part of the other anti-tank weapons, not being as convenient or efficient in comparison. We are monitoring the situation closely and will adjust more based on how this change plays out. Well, next up we've got the Flamethrower, and the Flamethrower is really the embodiment of stepping into a queen's lair and torching all her eggs, as done by a badass action hero-heroine. So it should be powerful up close and an inconvenience to enemies that are lit on fire or want to walk through the fire and the flames, and as many have commented, the Flamer has felt a little bit too anemic, not outputting damage at a rate that is warranted by a weapon with a shorter range and a larger volatility like the Flamethrower. So we've increased the Flamethrower direct damage to be able to barbecue enemies that get close much faster, so please enjoy your Terminid barbecue device responsibly, as also this makes it more volatile for any Helldiver caught in the stream. Next up, the laser cannon. So our original intent was the laser cannon had the role of a machine gun, but with theoretical infinite ammunition. However, many players were somewhat disappointed by this role, expecting more armor penetration from the large drilling beam than it looks like, especially when looking at the orbital laser that can drill down and kill even the heaviest targets given enough time. Here we've decided to side with the community and shift the laser cannon more towards the player's expectation and their fantasy. So the laser cannon has gained additional damage versus massive body parts, increased armor penetration to make it capable of dealing with medium armor, and better ergonomics to make it even better to stay on target. This is quite a major change from the original intention of the weapon, so please be prepared that it might change again in the future if these changes don't work out well, but for now, let us know how it feels. Next up we got the shield backpack. So the shield backpack is safety at the expense of a backpack slot. Unfortunately, the safety offered up by the shield backpack was a bit too great, essentially allowing you to ignore many mechanics that contribute towards the fun of Helldivers, such as knockback, shockwaves and the giant explosions obliterating you and your friends. To that end, we've increased the time that the shield needs before it starts regenerating, and if not broken quite significantly, this essentially means you can't hide behind a rock for 5 seconds to get your shield back to full. Instead, it will be a degrading health bar until it breaks. When the shield breaks, it will take longer to regenerate than before, but significantly shorter than if it hasn't broken. So to compensate for these extra times, the regen speed of the shield itself will be near instant to max HP. This is only a partial solve in our minds for the shield backpack, but it should bring it out from the must-have meta slot that is currently filled. Well, next up we got 120mm and 380mm barrages. So the fantasy of these is an artillery storm, denying entry to the area in which they are active and raining down powerful shells on the target for a longer duration. They are primarily different from the Eagle stratagems in while the Eagle strikes are fast to arrive and have pinpoint accuracy, these have longer active times but they are less accurate. They have, however, not delivered on the feel of being active much longer or the saturated area denial effect, and to bring them closer to the fantasy, we have decreased their scatter area and given them an extra salvo, so they should still solve a different problem than the Eagles, but have a little bit more value. Well, that is it for the update from Patrik Lasota. Loads of really good changes there. It looks like the SG-225 Breaker, that one has got a big nerf, but the one that I'm really excited about is the Flamethrower. Can't wait to pick that up, going to be testing that out in the near future. But let me know down in the comments what you think about all the changes to Helldivers 2. I put the link to the patch notes down there as well. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget you can hit that subscribe button down below, and you can subscribe for more Helldivers 2 content. You can also like and share the video as well. But thanks again. I will see you very soon.